In Plato, the same twofold impulse exists, though the mystic impulse is distinctly the stronger of the two, and secures ultimate victory whenever the conflict is sharp. His description of the cave is the classical statement of belief in a knowledge and reality truer and more real than that of the senses. Imagine a number of men living in an underground cavernous chamber, with an entrance open to the light, extending along the entire length of the cavern, in which they have been confined from their childhood, with their legs and necks so shackled that they are obliged to sit still and look straight forwards, because their chains render it impossible for them to turn their heads round. And imagine a bright fire burning some way off, above and behind them, and an elevated roadway passing between the fire and the prisoners, with a low wall built along it, like the screens which conjurers put up in front of their audience, and above which they exhibit their wonders. "I have it," he replied. "Also figure to yourself a number of persons walking behind this wall, and carrying with them statues of men, and images of other animals, wrought in wood and stone, and all kinds of materials, together with various other articles, which overtop the wall. And, as you might expect, let some of the passers-by be talking and others silent. You are describing a strange scene, and strange prisoners. They resemble us," I replied. "Now consider what would happen if the course of nature brought them a release from their fetters and a remedy for their foolishness in the following manner. Let us suppose that one of them has been released and compelled suddenly to stand up and turn his neck round and walk with open eyes towards the light. And let us suppose that he goes through all these actions with pain, and that the dazzling splendor renders him incapable of discerning those what answer, objects of which he used formerly to see the shadows. Should you expect him to make, if someone were to tell him that in those days he was watching foolish phantoms, but that now he is somewhat nearer to reality, and is turned towards things more real, should you not expect him to be and seize more correctly, above all, if he were to point out to him the several objects that are passing by, and question him, and compel him to answer what they are? Puzzled, and to regard his old visions as truer than the objects at first he will be most successful in now forced upon his notice? Yes, much truer. Hence, I suppose, habit will be necessary to enable him to perceive objects in that upper world, distinguishing shadows. Then he will discern the reflections of men and other things in water, and afterwards the realities. And after this he will raise his eyes to encounter the light of the moon and stars, finding it less difficult to study the heavenly bodies and the heaven itself by night than the sun and the sun's light by day, doubtless. Last of all, I imagine he will be able to observe and contemplate the nature of the sun, not as it appears in water or on alien ground, but as it is in itself in its own territory, of course. His next step will be to draw the conclusion that the sun is the author of the seasons and the years, and the guardian of all things in the visible world, and in a manner the cause of all those things, which he and his companions used to see.